mind, let's begin our journey. We are now going to be talking about number 4 and 5. We've got oxygen up to the brain. We are ready to go to learn some content. And we are going to go through some priming activities and activating prior knowledge. Every time you hear a strategy or a fact or something you want to remember, you just document it. Write it all over these words. And then we'll process those pieces. I read a book recently called Building Background Knowledge by Robert Marzano and really learned a lot. Have you guys read this book? You are required to? Have you read it already? Yeah, you eat, sleep, and drink. Yes, Marzano. And this is a great book, and I'll just give you a shortcut, but you should read it. It is good. But how many people want to know what he says are some of the top 10 ways to build background knowledge? Are you tired of them? Okay. Well, I've added some of my ideas, too. So here we go. We're going to give you, I'm going to skip this since you already know it, the top 10 ways to build background knowledge. By the way, this is on page 13, the number 1 way is a field trip. You guys have so many field trips here in Orlando. You know, you don't. In the Bronx, I go to a lot of schools in Brooklyn and Bronx and help those students out. And they have 15 because it's right there in New York City. I mean, they can walk from one place to the next. That's one of the best ways to learn, is to actually be in the place to learn the information. But we can't always do that. So bring it to our classroom. Google virtual museums. Bring Van Gogh to your classroom. Bring a brain to the classroom. Bring the beating heart. Number 3 is silent reading. This one I'm going to give you a specific example of, because, by the way, these are 10 general examples, and I'm one of those teachers that wanted specific examples. Is that okay with you guys? I'm going to give you a very specific example of what one teacher did to change how kids read. And it was Keaton's 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Creighton. And I got a permission. I showed it to all the teachers all over the nation. Look what she did one night. Keaton came home. He goes, Mom, you no longer have to sign my reading piece of paper every single day to show that I read. She is treating us more responsibly. She is allowing us to read. We have to read 1 book from every genre during the month. We have to write the titles in the boxes. Once we've read a book from every genre, we can read whatever else we want. By the way, that says mystery. Keaton read mysteries all the time. Finally, he goes, Mom, those fables are cool. Did you know you can learn a lesson from them? And I said, Keaton, I have been trying to get you to read different genres for I don't know how, but then Mrs. Creighton comes along and she does it. She's magical. So, of course, I called Mrs. Creighton. I said, you're amazing. That's amazing. My kid's motivated. Aubrey liked it too, and her teacher didn't even adapt it or adopt it. But Aubrey started doing it at the house. So I would like to tell you this right here, the more they read from different genres, the more they're going to impact their simple learning, okay, their semantic memory lane, and it's also going to challenge the brain. Challenge the brain to think at deeper levels, because every one of these will challenge them to get there. Because poetry is very different than biographies, and we want them reading the different genres. Okay, number 4, teaching vocabulary words is so important. How many of you explicitly teach vocabulary words on a regular basis in your classroom? Don't you have to? Okay, so I want to share with you a smarter way to do it. And I'm going to share with you 2 of my favorite activities. By the way, I can teach 2 whole days on vocabulary strategies. And I thought, which 2 do I give them? I'm going to give you the one that I believe changed how my kids owned vocabulary words. They started speaking the words. They started writing with the words. And obviously they comprehended it in their reading. I thought, that did that? That one little strategy did this? Yes. And here it is. It's a web of words. Because research says that when kids see the big picture, when we teach words in context and how they connect with the other words in that unit, they're going to remember them better. Well, this was my bulletin board. I primed my kid's brain. I put this up a week before I taught the unit on weather. And then guess what I told my kids? You put the pictures up here of these pieces. You put pictures of cold fronts and warm fronts. Google them, or maybe you got them in magazines or newspapers. My bulletin board was full very quickly. So that was my bulletin board. A week early, I primed their brain with this. Guess what the assessment was? At the end of the 3 to 4 weeks, on the topic of weather, they all had to become meteorologists. And they all had to stand up and use 15 of the words correctly. I mean, I told them I have to really see that they know what that word means in their meteorology report. These kids did such a good job. They said, Mrs. Nicholson, we appreciate that over a test. And it showed me how much they learned. And by the way, I had other little assessments and quizzes along the way too. Powerful. Couldn't believe this one little web.
There's an online tool for that.
Are you a computer specialist?
No, I read Science Teacher Magazine.
Woohoo! Science Teacher Magazine. What is this website?
Actually, part of the website, I'm trying to think of the name of it, but Norvakian, N-O-R-V-A-K-I-A-N.
Okay.
Concept map. But the only difference they have, and it's the gold standard concept map, is that they will write connectors, because there's sometimes when you categorize terms, some are subservient to the bigger term.
Absolutely. Maybe you can give me a list of these websites before you leave. Thank you so much for that additional information.
It's Norvakian, N-O-R-V-A-K-I-A-N.
Norvakian. Okay, thank you so much. And my second strategy, so webbing words is one. By the way, you can white out some of the words. Just white them out and see if the kids can fill in the blanks. Just to see if they know conceptually where some of the words go. Then my second one, we're going to actually participate in, because you are not going to believe how well you remember these words that you're getting ready to participate in. Everybody, please stand up. Get in that group of 5 and say, we're a team. And at this time, I want you to point to who you think could be the fastest person in your group and say, you're it. And okay, excuse me. I'm going to explain the directions first, because then the fast people are going to have to run up here and grab a pack of words. But let me explain it first. When you get back to your small group, by the way, this is called Kinesthetic Vocabulary. And it's the best way to teach vocabulary words so kids will never, ever, ever forget them. Here's how you play it. When you get back to your group, and once I see everybody has gotten the words out of the baggie, you're going to do this. Give them all about 2 or 3 words and save some for yourself, of course. And here's what happens. If I'm the first person, I do tell them the word. Between you and me, there's a cheat sheet on the back. This is for your eyes only. If you're in charge of your card, it tells you how to pronounce the word. It also tells you the meaning. But I got to act this word out. I really am not allowed to speak, except at the beginning, I want to pronounce it. The word is nictitate. Then I'm going to act it out. You guys ready? Watch me, and then guess what you think nictitate means. To blink rapidly. Okay. Now, once I'm done, the next person goes. You have only 6 minutes to make sure everyone in your group has mastered the definition of all 10 words. Now look at each other and say, this has been done many times. I will not start the timer until you all get back to your groups, and I've seen everyone give these out, and then I have a timer up here. Again, everybody in your group must learn all 10 definitions and acting it out. And by the way, if they come close, you can give it to them. There's some tough words in here. Runners, on your marks. The words are up here. Get set and go. All aboard. Now stay standing. Stay standing. Which group would like to volunteer to show off? Any group in here ready to show me that everybody in the group knows what these words mean? Which group would like to volunteer? I'll be easy on you. I'm just going to show you the word, and you just shout out the definition. You guys ready? Everybody cheer them on. Say, go, 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 go. Ready, set, go.
To blink rapidly. Left-handed.
aimless. Oh, she had that one. Oh, no, you were rude. Give them a round of applause. Okay, speedy runners, bring these back. Everybody else can sit down. Now, I know what you're thinking. Leanne, how was that deeper learning? It's step one. It's step one towards deeper learning. Now that we know these kids can get these words in their head, which, by the way, I broke another vocabulary rule. According to research, you should not teach 10 words at once unless you teach it in a very brain-friendly way, which we did. That's called muscle memory. The information that you just wiggled out or moved out or acted out is stored in your cerebellum. It's a part of the brain that remembers movement. That's why we can do powerful things on the piano and basketball, and those Olympians, their cerebellums are gigantic. It's got to be. Okay, here's what I'd like to say, though. I gave the kids a quiz the next day. My lowest of low kids, I'll never forget CG, aced it. And guess what he did? He was doing the movements that he saw his friends do. And he'd say, that's Jimmy's part. She was rude. Yeah, she was rude. I was trying to model that because that's episodic memory. Now I'm in two memory lanes. Episodic memory lane is who did it, who spoke it. By the way, I didn't teach all 10 words. There's no episodic memory if I teach it all. She taught two, you taught two, you taught two, and they remembered who taught it. And I saw CG say, Jim's word. That was Jimmy's word. And he did, oh yeah, snake. Okay, well, I didn't give him the same words, of course. I gave him the words I needed them to learn to be successful with the reading that was about to occur. Because we know research says that when kids know what the words mean before they read, they comprehend what? Better. This is just the beginning. It is step one. It's getting simple learning in the head, and then we can do this. Turn to page 16. This is the deeper learning piece. It's a graphic organizer that gets kids to stop just defining a word, but to look at a word in different ways. According to Robert Marzano, you guys know Robert Marzano? Okay, that's, I love it. I did not know that. You guys are Marzano'd out. But he's got some great strategies, and it's all research-based. I love the guy. He says we need the following pieces, and I just put it in a little acronym so we wouldn't forget them. Teachers, again, tweak it and change it to meet the needs of your kids, the age of your kids, but we should always give our kids a description. In other words, don't just tell them what the great dictionaries say. Give them a definition that they will understand. You may have to change it, okay? So you give them the description, you give them the word, they create the illustration. That means they can draw it, or they can Google it, or put an image there. And then they elaborate. Elaborate, a whole list of ways to elaborate. You guys want to see them? It's right below it. It's page 16 again. And a whole list of ways kids can elaborate. By the way, if you teach K through 3, don't give them this whole list. Just give them 4 or 5 ways. 4 or 5 ways that you've taught them. But they need to elaborate on words so that they understand the meaning of the words in multiple ways. But I love this because there are some kids ready to do an analogy like she was a while ago. You did that analogy about the ecosystem, and that was beautiful, okay? But then there are other people like, yeah, I'm just going to do this. I just want to give a synonym for deeper learning. Doesn't mean one's better than the other, but that's where your brain went, and that's where this person's brain went. So we're able to process in ways that we feel more successful. Now, I love the A piece. We've got to get kids to connect the word personally to help them remember it. This kid's hilarious. I had to abdicate my iPod because of my bad report card. That's personal. Here's another one. I don't think I'd want to be part of a dynasty since I like to do my own thing and I wouldn't want to inherit my job.